All right, I'm here with Cami, and she's helping to explain some really fascinating ideas about the moon. And we're going to start from scratch here. I came at her with a couple of really basic questions, and she's jumping into some ancient cosmologies. So, hey, Cami.
Hi, Rose. How are you?
I'm happy. I'm so happy to be talking to you. All right, explain what you're showing me here with these pictures. You brought up the first one before about how things could be a reflection.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the
Okay.
beginning for the show because people are jumping in and we decided to record this, but I could talk to Rose forever and pick her mind. This came about when she had a guest on, and the show title was, I think, Why the Moon is Not a Hologram. Is that right, Rose? Or, I'm close.
Yeah.
And like she
Yeah.
explained, she had every reason to believe that that was a safe topic with her friend, that everybody could agree on the fact that the moon could not be a hologram. Crow agrees on it. Everybody she's talked to, and she's trying to find bridges between globe earthers and flat earthers and ways to build conversations. And I have so much respect for her on doing that. So I think it's just a wonderful, fabulous thing. You know, she's working on the bridge, and she thought it was a safe topic, and then I hit her up with, "Hey, wait a minute! I think I want to show you a way that I think that the moon could be a hologram." Um,
Yeah, it's a great way for me to learn about holograms because it's really hard for me to focus on a topic unless there's some kind of I don't know, like a I need to feel satisfied that I completed a task and I want to wrap my head around these two ideas, yes or no to the moon being a hologram. Now, how could you know what your stance is on that if you don't fully comprehend what a hologram is? And I'm trying to wrap my head around the difference between a digital and natural hologram. And we were talking about how there might be a semantics issue between people talking about whether or not the moon is a hologram because people might not be thinking about it in the way that Cami is talking about, which is that it wouldn't be a digital thing, but more of a natural phenomenon. And when we can recreate this in nature, then why couldn't it be? Especially since the thing is so freaking weird. We have no idea what it is. There's nothing else like it. And so, yeah, Cami, thank you so much for taking the time to get back to square one with me.
well, it's good to have somebody to play with and somebody that has some of the same fascinations and interests. I have been always fascinated by the moon. And of course right now doing flat earth, what the cosmology really is and what our realm is really like. And one of the things that I have come across is that in all of our ancient cosmologies, it's always been the firmament is always really, we combine it, we automatically assume and combine it with our dome. But in all of the reading and through the Vedics, through the Christian, through Elven history, through the Nordics, through all of the Greeks, all of the different places have shown that it's a completely layered system where you have the earth, you have the vault of heaven, the vault, then you have another place, the gods. And so your first heaven in the sky is separate than the vault of heaven. The vault in Christianity is described as a vault of looking glass. Um, they always talk about having to cross the Silver River. The Nordics talk about the Bifrost Bridge, that rainbow bridge, the all colors, the
Across the rainbow bridge to
yes,
Valhalla, Odin's waiting for me.
exactly. And again, it's always described as
So,
a vault. Well, if you took the descriptions and made a vault of looking glass, I said, what do you get? And what I learned that you got, let's see if we can find it, is, see if I'm going to open a new page and hopefully not blow anything up. Oops.
but you can blow up North Korea because I'm kind of feeling like it didn't exist in the first place.
Definitely. A child's toy. You can get them anywhere. You can go you can get a fancy one for $60. You can go to Amazon and Wish and get them for under $10. I highly recommend that everybody gets one. Merascope, a 3D illusion maker. All this is a vault of looking glass, a small vault of looking glass. But what it does is it creates a natural anagram hologram. And so when they talk about the moon could not be a hologram, meaning that we don't see anybody setting up the projectors and the lasers and being able to have big enough equipment to cover this much sky and get the angles right, I would tend to agree with Crow. I would tend to agree with, I think, was her name Rebecca that did the hands. I would tend to agree with all of the people that I don't see it working that way either. But if the firmament really is a vault of looking glass and is a layer above us, what would happen and could it work? And we've done, when working with this, we've done all kinds of experiments that have blown the mind. I had it up on another one. I can just, I think, bring it up as easily here over again. But here, just to show it in play a little bit, I think you're going to like this, Rose.
Okay. Now, if the moon was a natural hologram, would it require that there was some sort of firmament?
Yeah. In other words, I think that the moon is a solid physical object on the dielectric inertial plane. In other words, it's rotating around up there in the firmament. And what we're seeing is the hologram of it down here, which would explain why we get the perceptions we do, why the moon follows us, and yet why it's so solid. It also, if you put these in action and add altitude to it, it also, if you make the sun something equivalent to like a black light source or a radiating light source, and make the moon fluorescent, and then add altitude to their, a dance to their motion, it creates the phases perfectly naturally all by itself too, and would hologram as such, and would explain why you could only see one side of it. It would answer all of the questions, actually. I don't know if it is the answer, so cool. But it could. I'm going to show you.
Yeah, we don't know if it is, but if it offers an explanation for, many of the questions.
It would answer, like, for instance, it would easily answer moonlight being colder. We're going to show you a couple of things, and I also want to show you, because it's amazing. I'm going to show you playing with light too, where you see things better. Can you hear the audio?
Are you using the Chrome browser?
No, I'm using the. Yeah, I'm using the Chrome browser. I can turn it off and talk through it if you want, if it's easier.
Well, if you'd like, you can stop your screen and then try sharing it again. But this time, before you click OK, there should be a box that you can check that says share computer audio with your screen.
Okay, I'm going to try that right now. Stop sharing. Share. Share audio. Share. All right. Was that it? Did you hear
I don't
that?
think you didn't start sharing your screen yet, so.
Oh, okay. I think we're going to have it when I get it. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I think so too. I have
it. And share. Oh, it wants to know what screen again. Okay. And share.
Right.
Got it. Are you ready?
All right.
I think this is a good starting place. We'll go into the light in a second, but just to give you an idea of some of the things like a simple Merascope can do, we'll play. And this is Zach who's staying at the house with me. This is me and him playing last summer.
Hello, everybody out there on YouTube land. Good times for all. Zachary Zabala here, if you prefer. In today's video, we are going to be playing with a Cami's Merascope, some ice, and a thermometer. That's all you would need to try to reproduce this one. This is cool, folks. This is going to take a while to set into my brain. This is kind of, it's crazy. You can see Minion over here, getting his lovins. He's such a good big boy. But yeah, what we have here is a Merascope and a laser thermometer. We'll point it at it a few times here so you can see what's going on in here. It does change temperature. You'll get 104. You go down near the bottom, 102. Go up over here.
99.
99, 102. There's all kinds of. Oh, look at that one. That one kind of jumped down a little bit. 67, 74, 89.
It's wigging it out. I see like a million different reflections of the light.
Yeah. So it jumps around a little bit. I think the higher up here it gets around the edge, it might get cooler. When I got really far down in there, we got like a 76, a 69, 83, and then when you get down here near the base, yeah, that's when it starts getting warmer, it seems. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a piece of ice right here, and we're going to set it inside the Merascope. Oop. And we have it resting down there. Now the cool part is when you back up,
Take those and put them onto the, crack them and do one.
There we go. We're just going to do one piece of ice. All right. Now, as you can see, it looks like the piece of ice is right up here. And wow, it's already doing it. It feels a little bit cooler.
Dirty fingers playing with the rock. Quite a bit, actually. You can feel it up and around too. It's amazing.
So you can still get the high temperatures when I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing it in there. It's hard to pick it up. I'm not hitting the ice, and I'm getting 91. And then I'll go over here, and I'm not hitting the ice on the bottom. As you can, the ice on the bottom is down in there. And I'm going to be aiming it over here this way. Now watch this when I'll hit it right here to the side, 88, 93, 94, and I'll just move over a little bit and hit it in that hologram. 48, 47, 50. I'm getting out of it now. Is that not wild? It's picking up the hologram. Now here's what happens when I hit the ice directly. You can see I have to point straight down. And there I'm getting 38, 36, see? But when I back up and I'll just aim it at the hologram, no way for me to hit the ice from over here. Let me clear it off. And I'll hit that hologram. Look at that, 44, 45, 50, 48. No way am I hitting that ice from this angle. The hologram is producing it and making it cold. I'll hit it at this angle over here. And it's still 80, at least 80, nowhere close to 44 when I put it. But when I hit that hologram, 42, that's just insane. That blows my mind. This is going to take me a while to wrap my mind around it. But this is actually producing a cold image. The image that the hologram is making is almost focusing the cold right here. You can feel it. I mean, I can go right through the piece of ice. Now it could be it coming up just out of the hole. But it's weird. Over here, you don't feel it as much. Then you come this way. Wow, that's just wild.
I'm going to do something. I'm going to switch it to even more one side of it. So the ice is going to be over here. Your image is going to be over there. You should get it way over here. So now there's direct sides of it. So this is where it should be cold, but this is where it is.
Yeah. Wow. It's wild, folks. Go get a Merascope. Like $10, something like that. I know you can find them online. You can get bigger ones.
$99 even for the small
Yeah,
ones, yeah.
$7
So
for the small one.
interesting.
But
This one's like
Jason, I want to explain this to you. I'm recording this conversation.
we need more people playing around with these and seeing what else we can do with this. Some
we're
more
gonna be
ideas.
testing sound later.
There, we're going to be playing with sound here in a little while. But yeah, this is.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Shelley. Well, that's it. I'm going to get going here. That's fun at the Knodel house. Oh, I'll make another video of this. We're going to show you how easy it is to cut ice with crystalline formation objects. Very cool stuff. But I'm going to wrap this one up. The hologram is cold, folks. Test it yourself. It's wild stuff. Thank you, Cami. Awesome. Good times for all here. Signing out. As always, thanks for watching.
So that's starting you off a little bit, Rose.
Yeah, that is so interesting, Cami. That just blows my mind. It could explain why moonlight is colder. But you know why do they say that you can't put smoked meats out in the moonlight? Jason, he's flushing the toilet. Did you hear that?
I did. That was wonderful. Hi, Jason.
He doesn't care about anything.
He's
a nihilist.
It just means the system's working. It's healthy. It's very healthy. I wanted to show you too, that's showing temperature, but I want to show you something else that's even cooler than that. And then I'll put it into context too on like why the full moon would be colder than like a half moon and different things, because I think it all has meaning in the cycle. In other words, the things that you're seeing, for instance, when we see a full moon, the reason I believe that we see a full moon, I believe it's fluorescing. Fluorescence is something that is very codependent on temperature. And so if you think about the moon like going around in its cycle, following the sun around and falling back every 7 days, it's going to fall back like a quarter thing. So if you started with a new moon, the moon is underneath the sun, right? As it gets further away from the sun, it's getting colder and colder. The temperature is causing it to rise. As it rises, it's starting to pick up fluorescing in the path of the fluorescence of the sun. But it's rising on its own naturally as it's getting further away, but also as it's getting further away, not only is more getting picked up on it, but by the time you have a full moon, it's in its coldest position. It's in its highest position because it's furthest away. So it's risen the highest in position. So again, the temperature is all a coefficient as it comes back around. I have a picture of this somewhere. I can, let's see. Let's give you this right now. So here's your sun. Your sun is going around in its track, right? So as it's following around every day, going around in its path, think of it
Wait,
as.
you're gonna have to share do you want to show your screen again?
Oh, I'm not sharing it. Shoot. Thank you. Tell me when you see it.
No problem. I can see it now.
Okay, so think about this and put this in the Merascope and make it reflect down. But it doesn't matter because again, the direction would do it from the bottom. But your moon, your sun and your moon are each going around in a cycle each day, right? So if it's noon here, each day it goes around and makes it to noon. Each day that the moon is going around, it's going a little bit slower. So by the end of day 1, it's fallen back a little bit. By the end of day 2, it's fallen back a little bit more. Day 3, day 4, you're at day 7 now. It's fallen back and you have a half moon. If you look at it in here, as it falls back, it's getting cooler. Cooler if you think of, if you guys remember your tracks and doing quantum quantum levitation on it, you'll know that magnetically in that, the warmer it is, the weaker the magnetics on it, the lower the object is. If you want the object to go higher, you chill it, and it will automatically go higher in the track. So as it's getting further away, it's rising. As it's rising, it's getting more. Think of this as a UV source. Think of it in the firmament as a black sun that's radiating. And as it comes around, it's hitting more of it. So at a half level, you're even. It's now at the exact even. Your quarters are even level. You're getting into things. Now, if you look at any of these phases from underneath, you see the phases correctly. So you see the half moon underneath it, from underneath it as the half moon. As it gets colder, it gets more fluorescent. Fluorescent is brighter still. Again, the colder it gets, it's one of the coefficients on fluorescence. The warmer it is, the weaker the fluorescence. The colder it is, the stronger. So not only are you getting now at a full moon 2 weeks into it, where the sun is lower, the moon is higher, you can now see the full bottom of it, but it's also at its coldest. So that's where you're getting the cold moonlight, is the hologram is coming down as a cold hologram in this particular, again, putting the pieces together of it being like that. So that's the cold light doing it. So if you put that in a Merascope and think of how it would reflect.
Huh.
I'm going to give you that's a lot to think about. We'll come back to this because I want to I want it to take you into another experiment I did, where we have you big up here. And we'll start at the beginning with the Merascope. I wanted to test ultraviolet light because one of the things that occurs in nature and in rocks and in anything that nature grows is some specimens are highly fluorescent. About 15% of materials out there, I believe, if I remember it right, are fluorescent. Above those 15% of the materials that are fluorescent, they're only fluorescent like 15% of the time on average, or 10%. Some of them less, some of them more. Fluoride is usually highly fluorescent, but diamonds can fluoresce or not fluoresce. Same with celestite, same with a lot of stones out there. So I was playing with fluorescence, and what I did was I got, let's see if I basically got UV glow paint and just painted different spheres and made them glow with glow in the dark paint. So I did all kinds of.
So when you said you thought that the moon could be in the firmament, you mean that the firmament is like a huge barrier that has.
It's one of our layers. It would be one of our layers. Like, in other words, we have the Earth layer, but the firmament would be a vault of looking glass above us. You would say, how would that work? Well, it would be created. But the other thing is your mirrored looking glass, or that we grow elements. We grow elements out of, what's here, right? So looking glass is kind of funny. We have a group on the elements table called the noble metals. And the noble metals are iridium, rhodium, platinum. These are all of the metals that would work naturally as a mirror. So if you had a vault or a layer, a vaulted thing that grew, that it literally grew with platinum, iridium, and that, you would have naturally grown a vault of looking glass.
Wow.
Now, these materials usually grow under low pressure, by the way. When you synthesize and work on things in laboratory, you recreate under low pressure. It's kind of cool. So this I made. What I did was I painted little balls. Like, this is one sitting on top of my Merascope. And I painted them with the glow light. But what got fun with this is I looked at it, and when I put something in if I put a glowing object in the Merascope, lo and behold, it made a glowing object. There's a lot of them on here, but it just shows it sitting on top. That's the moon. These are just like different. I don't know where.
What would cause it to glow so much, though, knowing how much the moon glows?
It would glow different amounts on how much UV source it would be exposed to. So if you put the sun in position and made it a black sun. So in other words, if you put the firmament above it and put the sun and moon in the firmament, they wouldn't really be the sun and moon up there. What we're seeing in our world would be the sun and moon, but what you would have in the firmament would be the black sun or Rahu and Ketu, which would come down as the sun would catch fire going through our magnetics or come to life as a fireball. But in the firmament, it would be the dark sun. As it came down here and interacted with our atmosphere, it would become a lit sun. Now you're like, well, how would anything, or the moon, how could it interact with our atmosphere? I did some experiments. Let's see if I can get one that plays here on here. Oh, that's through domes and filters. I'm going to find, I can't tell on here which videos. I might have to get out of it to see which on here, because I can play. Let me get smaller a minute and find out which ones. I took a UV light. And I want you to watch a little bit. I have the UV light, not on the hologram, but holding it. I'm holding a little pin light in my hand right here, and see how I'm pushing it up? I am not hitting what's in there. I am hitting from underneath, and I'm hitting the hologram itself and affecting the hologram with light and making the hologram. In other words, I put in a dark room, I put that in dark. And in order to make it glow, I'm hitting only the hologram.
All of the hologram. And you can also, if someone else was looking from the top, they would look down at the object and it would not be illuminated.
It actually plays back and forth. They illuminate, they play, but no, that doesn't part on here. That I did both of it. It works both ways. You can hit
okay, this is the mirror.
On there, you can see part of it. You can see down here, it is lit up there. Watch this.
Yeah, okay.
Watch how your face is fake, though.
Okay. I'm watching.
I'm looking how that's a sloppy making on it, but look on how doing it, and even with the light and taking it higher and lower, you would want to know why your moon disappears at a new moon. Number one, if it's a hologram and not lit up, it's going to disappear next to the sun and come around. But oops, whole different one now. I did not mean to do that. I don't even know which one we're looking at, but we'll let it spin. I've done all kinds of, I've tried, shows you down there. Some of these ones, see how you have your double imaging here? If you float this on water and don't set it on the bottom, you entirely lose your double imaging, which is fascinating too.
When it's floating.
Yeah. Yeah, I have let's get rid of that too. I have, maybe not in this group, but I have, I can't tell if this is, oops. Yeah, this, for instance, this is actually this is a hologram of a water droplet, and it's sitting on top in the water. The object is way down here.
Wow.
If I put it into, like, put the little domes on top, yes, the hologram projects into the dome. If I put the dome the other direction, like a dome, a glass dome even, it projects into the other direction to the interest, up into the, in other words, it is projecting into glasses, is projecting through, I did different hologram filters and Polaroid filters, and that if I put filters over the top, the hologram actually projects through all of the different mediums. I've done magnetic, I've done Polaroid filter mediums, done all kinds of different things with it, that the image will come through. Isn't that crazy?
That is so crazy. And you're balancing, what kind of, like, where did you get that glass dome cup thing?
The glass dome is like people were playing with this, emulating your personal dome and an atmospheric dome. It's just a solid glass. You can get it as a magnifying glass on Amazon or on different things. It's a paperweight. It's a lot of things. This is just it's heavy. It's a solid glass dome. And again, I use it just to do a lot of medium quickly. again, your atmosphere is a lot more of it going on, but I also want to see what the limits are on what, again, this can project through. This is actually, this hologram here is projecting through a Pyrex bowl into the bowl.
Huh.
And you can see the bowl. But that is a hologram. Again, what you're looking at is all the stuff that you're looking at. These are holograms that you're looking at.
Ooh, well, that definitely looks like a moon.
That
one more time. Can you make that one bigger?
Oops. Yep, I can make that one bigger. Oops, wrong one on here.
And it's so bright. Does it look brighter when it's dark in the room?
Yes.
Okay. I know that sounds like a stupid question, but I just want to make sure.
It's darker when that, and then I have different UV settings. I try different frequencies to get different effects on it, or different darknesses, and I've tried different stars on the outside, inside, to see how they propagate. I've actually gotten funny on these things and have lined up stacks of bowls and things on top of each other, trying to get a realistic. I've hung these upside down from the ceiling and I've used gem gel to do motion and that with them, trying to find flaws in the matter. I mean, you see, this would be a flaw because there's a double reflection and we don't see the moon as a double reflection. But again, as soon as the object is in the middle of it, it changes. All of a sudden, if you put the object in the middle, you no longer get the double image. It disappears. The other thing is if you float the atom in the middle by a string, which I've done, and if you use 2 Merascope tops, both with the holes out, the image reflects as above, so below. I want you to think about what I'm saying. So everything in there reflects as above, so below, just by having a double hole dish. When you change the shape of the disc, and I've mixed and matched different Merascopes, there are thicker ones. I mean, this is not produced by a certain angle of the dish that has to be exactly like this. The deeper ones and the shallower ones just put the image in a different place. So do I know exactly what our firmament or what shape or what turns it takes? No, I don't. But what tells me is that there are so many possibilities of what it could do. Another one, Rose, just to blow your mind.
That reminds me of how unique cymatics are. Everything has a signature, or a different elements create a different kind of location, or the different way that it moves.
I truly believe that's with our stars and how you see. I think that when we're picking up the stars, like with our digital cameras, and we're seeing those specific patterns that we see, and they say, oh, it's because of your camera not focusing, but it doesn't matter. Each star always has Sirius, always looks the same cymatic pattern as Sirius. Each star has its own pattern. I think the digital camera is helping us pick up something that we're not seeing. I think it goes back both ways on the things, but I think what we are is picking up some of the cymatic pattern on it.
Well, Cami, let me ask you, because I saw a very convincing picture that was showing this beautiful cymatics, but then they showed a picture that demonstrates the shape of the camera's aperture, and it looked so similar. So how would you explain that? Because I was almost convinced from seeing that.
Because of the
copy of it.
I saw that too, except for each star, each star has, keep on going back to it again. Go to Sirius, go to Polaris, go to your different stars, and they each have their own cymatic pattern, individual to themselves. And when you go back night after night, they keep their individual. No two stars. The patterns look the same, but the
same camera producing different images at the same time.
Yeah, but the stars themselves have they have that frequency pattern that feels like that. It's the same cymatic pattern. I do pattern recognition, would be probably a nice,
way to explain that.
A nice way to, or what I see in things are patterns. This, you've seen the Flammarion. This is the Flammarion. By the way, whenever you see the Flammarion colored, know that the actual Flammarion was a woodcut. And not only was it a woodcut, but it was a woodcut intaglio, meaning that they didn't engrave it. They actually, it was a reverse engraving. So if you think of an intaglio ring, like your dad, your dad's or somebody's ring that had the little knight or whatever carved up the intaglio, a cameo is an intaglio that goes up. This was all carved intaglio style in woodcut. So any print that you see or any coloration is done after the fact. It's the cut itself does not have color to it. But if you look at the sun and the moon, you'll notice that you have the sun and the moon on the inside and the outside of the dome.
Right.
It's hollow. It's like it's.
How did we even know this stuff? Would it just be from all this observation over so many years and just theorizing against all possibilities that they came up with this as the most logical Occam's razor type situation?
This right here, the Flammarion has got an interesting history that nobody knows exactly who did it, and it was described as finding the end of the world and looking outside the dome. I think it's encoded in certain historical pieces, and that like Illuminati, like the symbology, like the Masonic symbols. These are all like a primer. They're codes to solving a puzzle. They are the pieces that you need in order to pass through and tell the stories, that it's obscure enough that if you don't look for it, it's not going to show up for you. But again, if you understand what the coding is and what the symbology is, it's a way of passing it through history and keeping, again, the truth alive.
Yeah. What do you think of the whole idea of the double sun and how it's being picked up with the H alpha sun scope? Would that also fit into this idea? I mean, I've seen Masonic paintings where it's the source of the sun is shining through, and there's another what's the word, luminary on the inside.
It would be we'll go back to that. It would be perfect as far as seeing what we're seeing, especially with Chris's work and that you're doing and seeing the second sun at certain angles. You could either see the actual source, or you might see another as a holographic image. So it would make perfect sense that at a different angle and just the right angle at certain times, you would see two of them. And it would happen like during certain times a year, and you would be able to pattern it. But I think it makes perfect sense that if the holographic sky is created like I think it's created, it would be necessary, looking at it the way I have through different angles, and that it would be something you would look for is that at certain angles, just like when I hear history, the people that live to the far north, they feel that the moon feels further away and higher there and smaller. I think that they're seeing the moon perhaps in the firmament itself and not the hologram. Again, it opens up a distinct possibility, because when you get right to the center part of looking up, you lose the hologram. So at what point are you seeing what? And it is funny that it's hard to do like at the different angles. When I've done it from the ceiling, as you get one angle, the other one usually tries to disappear. The angle that you're looking at it and looking up at it, again, some of the most learning I've done has been hanging it from the ceiling and trying, getting that vision of, because it is overhead, but it works. I don't know if it is the answer, but like, again, when people say this can't be this or that can't be that.
Yeah, this is an explanation for how it can be or why it can be.
It could be, or I see it as definitely historically one of the best possibilities, because it goes with everything. I mean, it literally goes with every ancient cosmology. It seems to make sense on why we have the cold moonlight, why we see two suns and moons. It also makes sense of the eclipses. If you add polarity, those little Polaroid filters in regions of polarity to the thing, it also puts things like the lunar wave and eclipses into perfect context. And the eclipses, it puts them in perfect order to the way that it goes red in the middle, just by adding, saying that the holograms are transferring the areas of polarity. Again, a lot of work needs to be done on researching it, but the possibilities are all there. And the possibilities, if they're there, it's the possibilities of it working very simply, elegantly on its own, that a lot of this is like the height of the moon. Again, as it goes around, the height of it is controlled simply by temperature, which temperature does in quantum locking affect the height of things. You know, things that are real. They're like easy, simple explanations, or I would call, again, non-complicated, that they handle the stuff on their own. You don't need anybody running a projector or.
Right. It's natural.
It's natural. You have to have the genius to put it in motion. You have to
Right.
have the setup, but once it's in setup, it does it. It's brilliant. I mean, it's much cleaner and elegant than anything we could build.
Absolutely. I have a cat here that's trying to break into the treats, and I'm trying to make a decoy. I need to create a distraction. All right. Their plan has been foiled. Are you a cat person or a dog person?
I am a dog person.
Right on. I love both.
I love both also. I just, I think I would probably be a both person if my husband wasn't allergic to cats.
Oh yeah, my stepdad is allergic to cats, and then I think my mom became allergic because of him for some reason. But yeah, I like them.
I like all animals. I really do. I like animals better than people. What?
Yeah.
I've thrown like way too much. I did get scattered in that. I know.
No, I love it. It explains the duplicated image and how you duplicated it. It looks like a freaking moon. It looks real. It's done naturally without a projector, and it explains how it can be illuminated, and it explains the cold temperature. What else is that? What else am I forgetting?
I think you're getting all of it. There is a video. Let's see if I can find it. That I did with Globebusters when I was on there. That again, when we're talking about the fluorescence and how it would like light up and glow, I did do a video on something called "Is the Moon Celestite?" I believe that the moon. This is again in a crazy day and age. I believe that the moon is a rock. Again, we're seeing a hologram of it, but nature grows rocks, and it happens to grow. When looking at the moon, there's a rock that it grows naturally, spherical. It's very abundant. It's easy to grow. The largest geode in the world is made out of it. The largest cave that you can go into, it's celestite. It's also celestite is anything that you have that glows. So if you buy a glow-in-the-dark necklace and you break it up and put it around your neck, or if they set off fireworks and they're glowing, any of the glow stuff that you have is made out of celestite. It's what they crush to make all of the fireworks or your necklaces, or in other words, it's what's out there, and it's a very, very abundant material. It's not something rare. I have a bunch of it at the house. I don't have some on my desk in front of me, but I usually do.
That's so cool.
And I'm doing it right now. I'll drop it in, but I'm painfully slow. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Seventh-day Truth Seeker makes small excerpts from videos that are easier bites to look at. And so we could do, oops, I meant to be in here. That's not going to do it. We could go, it's the Globebusters one, but he did an excerpt on this. So let's see if I can find it. Oops. So there's a video on seventh-day truth seeker, Cami Moonlight, Skyrite, celestite temperature, and fluorescite crystals. So if you wanted nerdiness on like background on, even when I say that the moon could be a rock, this would be my first choice. Geologically and gemologically matching inclusions, matching, like for instance, celestite. If you're going to go out and look for it, let's say you're going out and looking for it in nature, one of the things you would look for, like if I'm going to break open this geode, is there going to be these blue crystals on the inside? One of the things you'd look for is like a cratered pattern. It's a natural dissolution pattern, the cratering. It's how celestite occurs.
Right.
So little things like, oops, I'm trying to stop at a picture, and the way it fluoresces, again, the natural pattern of celestite and the outer pattern of it would be, even on Earth, if you were, it's what happens to it. That cratering is what happens when it's especially exposed to a briny solution or saline, which again, I think it would suggest perhaps fluid in the waters, separating the waters from the waters, or again, fluid in the firmament. Just possibilities. But again, other things it could dissolve to. But it definitely, if you were looking for celestite, you would look for like something that looks like moon cratering, because that's how it dissolves.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Simple
that is
thing.
fantastic.
So, and then again, there's also on there, people are interested in the way that would work with phases. There's another video on the phases of it. I'm throwing a lot at you right now. It's very geeky, and it's not, I know what's out there now is like why the moon is not a sphere, why the moon is not a rock, why does the sky is not a holograph. And I'm just here to say that I don't know if we really know. Again, I think that these things are all possible. We don't know. And
you
really,
are right that we don't know.
We don't know.
I shouldn't have named my video that. I should change it.
Oh,
I should say Rebecca talks about holograms.
It got my attention. I don't think it's bad. Again, I don't take it. I think it's where we are in working on a model right now. Is I think we're still in shock that the world is not like what we've seen, and I think a lot of our focus is like taking down anything.
Yeah, I auto hoax the moon. I auto hoax anything I can.
Right, and so I don't know. I think it's a healthy thing of where we are in it.
But that's why we have each other, so that I can make a claim, I can be impulsive and being like, I declare, and then you can come by and be like, hey, let's get back down to earth.
And even on this could be right, wrong, or indifferent, but I think we should be open to all possibilities at this point, and see where we can run with them, because it's what I dream about at night.
Yeah, and what you're showing us, you are showing us reality. We are seeing. You're not making this stuff up. You have shown us what you have duplicated.
Yeah, everything I do, I have to, and it keeps me off of the computer a lot, but it keeps me grounded. It has to happen naturally in analog. I mean, you can use equipment like I think digital equipment, and that is helpful in picking up the background patterns. But reality is not digital. Reality is analog, and to look at it, one of the things, can I do something really fun, digital versus analog, for you?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to stop sharing again because there's a video I want to figure out how to share.
Okay.
So I can put this over here. So talk for a minute and give me a minute while I set this up.
Okay. Well, let me think about any other questions that I might have about any preconceived notions I've had. I love the idea of it growing in the firmament. It's so wild and new to think about right now. I always think about how those things that are growing on Earth, they need would you agree that it needs a certain atmospheric I don't know, minerals in the atmosphere? I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but I don't know, the molecules are behaving a certain way that are conducive to the growth. So maybe I should say weather. Does the weather help the growing?
I think I can help you out a little bit on this one because I'm a gemologist and I did very, very geeky stuff for over 30 years, including hanging out with guys when I could get a chance to synthesize stones, meaning they grew stones in laboratories, and the latest technology that was going out in that. First of all, our understanding and the way that they put rocks out to you is about as real as the globe.
Okay.
Okay, so to give you like lesson one in reality, it would be, you see how trees grow, right? And you see how like an ironwood grows very slow and it's a very hard wood and it grows very slow and dense, and a cottonwood grows like crazy and it's a softwood, right? When that's how crystals grow too. In other words, if they grow slower and more concentrated, the conditions are conducive to them growing slower and closer together. So when they say that coal and diamonds are the same and it's just diamonds grow under pressure, it had nothing to do with them growing under pressure. Nor could you ever take coal and put it under pressure and make a diamond. That's as absurd as saying that you could take a cottonwood and squeeze it and get an ironwood out of it. In other words, it's the crystal lattice structure. So if you think of the lattice structure growing, if it grew really tight, it's compact. So a diamond growing tight, you're going to, under ideal conditions, get a pure diamond, and graphite under conditions where it had to grow quickly to get there. The same as lava, just never had time to crystallize. So if you have lava that does not have time to crystallize, you get an amorphous flow. There's no crystalline to it. It's flowing into a container. But if you have lava and it has time to crystallize and stays in that warm, that it's more of a temperature than a pressure. But in that case, it stays in that warm between state long enough, you're going to get the basalt columns, and you're going to get the Giant's Causeway in the under wonderful growing conditions. That's like the basalt pillars. Those are perfect growing conditions where it stayed hot and nice growing conditions for a long time. They kept on growing. Rocks are growing all of the time everywhere.
Now, if the moon grew, how come more moons didn't grow, or do you think that more could be growing?
Okay, more could be growing on that one. That one, they say it was placed, so I think there might be a little bit of divine, or again, I think there was intentional growing. Growing you can influence with frequency, and that one of the things I've learned through all of this, and even knew going into it, is like different tests they did. I found this fascinating, where they did litmus tests and they were growing different elements here on Earth, but they were testing it under different. They were testing the growth under different conditions, sunlight versus under the moon, under different planetary alignments. And lo and behold, you know what? Mercury grew fastest where Mercury was present. And
what do you know?
What do you know?
God, how creepy, but expected. I don't mean creepy, but I mean it gives you shivers a little bit, don't you think?
It does. So you look at things, and I think I'm not a god, nor do I think I'm a god, but if God was creating, how does God create things? God grows them. He grows the grasses, he grows the rocks, the difference between people and rocks, it's wonderful. People, when we do it, we ourselves divide. And rocks, it's additive. You can watch it. There's a crystal video on the moon and celestite. There's a wonderful video attached to it that shows exactly, you can watch how crystals grow. Crystals are growing all around you. You can grow crystals. You can make rock candy with sugar. You can salt crystals. Everything that's not vegetable or person, vegetable or animal, is a mineral, and the minerals grow. It's so when working with like trying to see how the model really works, I'm looking at how it works, and how it works is vibration and frequency and elements, which elements are nothing but the electrical charges, the positive and the negatives, and adding it up. You don't need to leave too much that knowledge to other than thinking of it as is like a charge, as I do, or electromagnetic that phases into it. It would grow. I mean, or the moon would be grown, elements are grown. We would not take wires and plug this into this to make a lighting and run the cord down the side. You would make something that glows, self-illuminates. Fluorescence is a self-illumination. It's reacting off of the UV that's present, and the sun happens to be the perfect catalyst for it. I've looked at this guy like almost every night for over 5 years now, and I position. You can even do it in the sky. If you make a perfect tint over your head and make that your apex, and then make a tint going down, and you look at where the sun is and the moon are, and then like straighten your tint up, they will put themselves in perfect pattern to make those reflecting patterns that I'm talking about, all on their own, without anybody, just by circling and reacting to temperature. And the temperature I put in there was just that by the sun was hot and away from it was colder. Fluorescence, by the way, shuts down at, there's a temperature it shuts down at, I think 400 and something degrees at it. That could give us some temperature gauges on here, because again, right before you go into new moon, the light seems to shut down entirely. That right there could be the fluorescence is shut down because it's got a Curie point, but when it gets cold again, it turns back on.
Wow. Love it.
It does it all by itself.
Yeah.
This I'm going to try sharing again, because I have this up. And share audio. I don't even know if I want to. Let's see if I'm going to share audio with this. This is so cool.
All right, great.
Each of these pieces of glass is what's called a polarizing filter, which means when a photon of light reaches the glass, it either passes through or it doesn't. And whether or not it passes through is effectively a measurement of whether or not that photon is polarized in a given direction.
Try this. Find yourself several sets of polarized sunglasses or old photographic filters. Look through one set of sunglasses at some light source, like a lamp, then hold a second polarizing filter between you and the light. As you rotate that second filter, the lamp will look lighter and darker. It should look darkest when the second filter is oriented 90 degrees off from the first. What you're observing is that the photons with polarization that allows them to pass through a filter along one axis have a much lower probability of passing through a second filter along a perpendicular axis. In principle, zero probability.
But here's where things get quantumly bizarre. All these filters do is remove light. They filter it out. But if you take a third filter and orient it 45 degrees off from that first one, and then you put it in between the two, the lamp actually looks brighter. This is not the middle filter generating more light. Somehow, introducing another filter actually lets more light through. With perfect filters, if you keep adding...
Okay, are you getting what? Are you catching this?
Well, I'm catching that putting an additional filter in between allows more light to go through. What else am I supposed to gather from that?
Okay, I want you to stop, and I want you to really, really stop and think about this. And I want you to stop and think why this doesn't work in digital world and why it doesn't work in computer world or that. Think about what they're saying is that think about it with water and strainers. So you're pouring water through a strainer and it's only letting half of it through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it says you're adding another strainer underneath it, and all of a sudden the flow is back harder by putting another filter underneath it.
I don't get it. It's
right. It's not. It doesn't work digitally. It does not work in other words, they have a paradox and they're going to do things. But in other words, you can't take half of it away, add another filter that adds more back in. This is polarity. This, by the way, occurs in any, this is not, again, circular polarity is the Faraday effect. And we know polarity is up there. We know it's out there. We know it is part of the way we see things in effect. It's part of every day. If you have a pair of sunglasses, you can just turn your head sideways and look at your screen, and your screen will disappear. They tell pilots not to wear polarized sunglasses because airplanes usually have polarized windshields, and you don't want polarized glasses turning your head and having the screen blocking out. Everybody
Right.
deals with polarity every day without even knowing about it. But this, again, something to wrap your head around, is something that's occurring up there. Remember what we talked about, Rahu and Ketu. If you give polarity, which, objects do have polarity, the sun and moon, and that on the holograms, imagine the effects if you put them in motion above, what these regions of polarity are going to do. As far as we've just made what he just did with the three filters, that just recreated our eclipse. And you know what? If you incorporate that into the model, it happens to do everything in the right direction and line up perfectly just by introducing polarity to the model. Something that we know that exists and is out there.
And something we can duplicate right here.
And something we can, of course, scale it, because reality is scalable. I mean, it's other than we can't go up and touch things. This is, again, very real.
Yeah.
And again, people don't think, but if I was sitting on a computer and trying to make a model, this isn't going to come into play, is it? If I wasn't playing, I have a whole bunch of Polaroid filters and Polaroid films, and because it's one of the things that we're dealing with in the mystery, and it's one of the things that again explains so much, and we know it's there. It's a real answer. You just tell me if you can't. I'm going to go through this again without the thing, but look what he's doing on these things, and think of your eclipses as you watch the moon.
Yeah, it looks exactly like the eclipses that I've seen filmed right there.
Now you add some color like the moon celestite and that in the fluorescence to it, you're going to get the red in the middle. I've done it.
Wow.
Like they filter it out.
But here you go, and add that one, and look, you know how it goes dark, brighter, then the dark again in this. There you go. Just like again.
And what is it about Rahu and Ketu that would be like adding that filter?
Just in other words, if these things actually we have, in other words, a polarity, a charge to it, if they are of their fields around them, their magnetic fields are opposite when they do anode and cathode, that if their fields around them are opposite polarities, they're going to have a magnetic field that's an opposite polarity. Now, if in a sun and moon thing, if you put them in the model on top of each other, like if you double my model and again make it where it crosses over, let me bring up a different picture so it's less confusing. Let's go back to, I would guess, okay, so you have this going on. Now you have this going on in reverse above it. I wish I didn't have so many suns and moons. So let's only look at, let's say that right now we have a sun and a full moon. So you have this one and this one, right? Ignore everything else on there. Up here, we have the full moon and we have the sun. And remember,
okay, on the other side or within the firmament.
Right, because they're going to cross over, and so the sun is really here.
The Merascope is the firmament.
Right. So yeah, think this is what we're seeing here, but right above it is the Merascope, right? And the Merascope, your images are just reversed, like they do in the Merascope. Your full moon is over here and it's reflecting here. Your sun is here and reflecting over here, right? Now these are reflections that are having different polarities to it. So now you have, during the eclipse, you have the full moon going through, crossing over with the sun, a direct lineup up here of polarities here between the two. In other words, you understand that by the time it comes down, by the time in other words, the sun is really here, the moon is here. So by the time they cross over and do this, you're going to have the polaroid filters. So that's going to have Rahu eating, Rahu and Ketu causing the eclipses because
of the overlap.
When they hit each other in the circuit. There's certain times when they hit the circuit. Think of them as like spirograph. The suns, think of the suns as like like your oval pattern or your round pattern that's a consistent, where your moon is a egg shape. Every year the sun goes between the tropics, right? But you'll know that the moon does it. It transits the tropics once a month. So therefore, why the sun takes a whole year to do it, the moon does it every single month it hits between the tropics. So it makes an egg-shaped.
Incredible. Wow, you've really opened my mind tonight.
So when you take your egg shape and you think of your egg-shaped spirograph over your like loop spirograph, when the two cross over and go on top of each other, again, you're going to hit each other on this. So if you add polarity into it, which polarity would have to happen with it? That's just, again, you're charging. And again, part of, we know that they have polarity, and that we also know that there's a rotating disk of your other thing, a rotating disk that is going through to a medium. So you have all of the pieces in play, all the pieces you would need to make your moon phases, your eclipses, and that. The only thing that you're not going over, and again, that I handled a little bit on there, but there's more to it, because in the map, I believe that we have definite magnetic. I think that, on our map magnetically, we have 3 series of poles. But, the one thing that I'm not covering here that would be another one is the possible star rotation. But there are answers. Remember that one thing I told you, even that if you change the angle, you look at things, the way that it rotates changes. Can we put that up? Maybe some people will get this, some people won't.
Sure.
If I can find that again.
Example, because I want to wrap it up soon. I like to keep my videos close to an hour long. Perfect. And this is just This is just a visual for people. This is a dual axis. When it says swing your head to the left and right, really tilt it with your ear to the shoulder. But looking at this illusion is interesting, because if you look at it with your head in the upright position, you'll see it spinning either to the left or to the right horizontally. But if you turn your head sideways, you're going to watch it flip up and down. Once you know how to do it, you can mentally change it without even tilting your head. But it just kind of shows you, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at really do change sometimes. Indeed. Hell yeah. So we'll stop. Thank you, Oops. What? I'm just trying to be coordinated and shut things. Sorry. There we go. Oh my gosh, you've really opened my mind tonight, and I really feel like I can visualize. I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to comprehend what you were saying, but this is so straightforward. How motivating for me to continue my path to understanding all of the hard work that has been done before me, It's hopefully so hopefully there is nothing to any questions. And again, these aren't right or wrongs. These are just possibilities. And for every possibility that I'm showing you, I have more on how things, can work. Right. That is so cool. Well, we need to. Yeah. The more you learn how things really are possible. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think that in the system that I was brought up in, everything was so black and white. So once I come to one conclusion, I'm pretty stuck with it, but I try to keep my mind open, and I need that information presented to me exactly in that way. You're so good at explaining this stuff, Cami. I love it.
Well, thank you. You're like the first person that says I'm good at explaining. I know I'm good at thanking it. I have, like, for the last over 5 years with the map, what I've looked for more than anything is like map busters reasons that the flat earth couldn't be real and couldn't be like the real, like a physical reality, not just a hologram or not just the matrix, but a real reality. And the more I look, and I get lost in it, because not only is it possible, but there are more possibilities than I can even wrap my head around. And they're always simple and beautiful, but there are so many things. And I wonder if I'm sitting here in a little room in Denver thinking of these, imagine what other people, that's what I love, like on the shows, with people, imagine what other people are, finding too. It's quite the journey.
Yes, indeed. So true.
All right. We all done?
Yes, I'm going to end this recording now. Let me just click end. But I don't think it's going to kick us out.
Perfect.